Wait. Don't skip this if you're a parent. Let me tell you that you should listen to our podcast, Let Kids Play Podcast. Why? Because our children are lacking creativity and problem solving skills. On this podcast, we laugh, we have special guests, we talk about the traditional and homeschooling needs, and give you tips and hacks and things like that to enhance your experience of teaching your little ones under 5 years old. You can find the Let Kids Play podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hi guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James. And on my podcast, my guest and I discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So check out our podcast. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or even on Audible. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel at Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Until then, see you soon. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. We believe that the relationship between a dad and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. Our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world and give love and support to all of our dads and their daughters. Let's get to it. Let's tune in. Hey, welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that the relationship between a father and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. And so our mission here at the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is to spread the voices of our girl dads and their fathers and give our love and support to all of our girl dads and their fathers. Make sure you guys checking us out on all of us. First of all, make sure you guys listen, like, subscribe, and share on all of your social media, all of our social media platforms. Make sure you guys are following us. I am just messing up all over today. But thank you guys once again for being here on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Again, make sure that you guys are following us on all of our social media platforms, as well as all of your listening platforms where you listen to your podcast. And make sure that you guys also check out our partner podcast, the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Speaking of which, make sure also you guys subscribe to our new YouTube channel. So we used to share a channel with the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which is my original podcast that I had first. But now we've just changed that channel from just being the Deal to Heal podcast channel to actually the Deal to Heal podcasting network. And so now we have 4 podcasts that's available on that channel, on that YouTube channel. You have the Girl Dad Discussions, you have the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, you have the Earn and Earth podcast, which is the podcast that I do with my brother. And then we have Faith Walk and Love Talk Bible Study podcast, which is my sister. She's been doing it. She's been doing her podcast live, her Bible study live for the last 4 years. And so we just changed the format a little bit and changing it to a podcast. And so now you can get that. So make sure you subscribe to our new channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. All right, guys. Also, I'm going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, but you got to stay until the end of the episode in order to get that information, right? So stay to the end of the episode, which I know you will, because we have great uh, um, episodes with great guests. So I know you're going to stay until the end. So our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase in order to support the podcast. So our products of the week is our purpose journal and our purpose planner, right? It's the I believe that we all are walking in purpose, and as us walking in purpose, we need to journal so that we remember where we are and where we've been. Then we also need to plan for our future. Therefore, walking on purpose, get your purpose journal as well as your purpose planner. The links is down in the description below. They're on Amazon. You guys get them. So make sure you pick those up and support the podcast by buying some of our amazing products, right? So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, and I want to make sure I say your name right.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say one, Miguel, right?
Yeah, Miguel. And then the last name is LeBron, like LeBron James.
Yeah, I was gonna say LeBron, but I seen the little asterisk over there, and I'm like, maybe this is a little different, right? So, first of all, let me say thank you for being here, man. Thank you for being on, because you could have been anywhere else with anyone else, but you're taking out time to be here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it. So we're gonna jump right in real quick. So do me a favor, Miguel, introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about what you do.
For sure. First of all, thank you, Ernest, for allowing me to be here, be on your platform, on your podcast. My name is Miguel LeBron. I am a personal growth strategist. I help those who feel stuck become unstuck and accomplish their goals. But before being a personal growth strategist, I was a husband, a father, and I am a husband and a father. I have 3 daughters, ages 10, 8, and 4. I've been married for 18 years. Well, we've been married for 15 years, been together for 18. So it's been an incredible journey, an incredible path in life to be able to be with my wife and be able to build a family. I come from a middle class family. My mother, she migrated from Puerto Rico when she was 18 years old. Shortly thereafter, she and my father met, and by the time she was 21 years old, I was born, and I'm the second child of 7. And so, that marriage just didn't last. By the time I was 2, my father and my mother had divorced, and my father, due to addiction, he was in and out of our life and in and out of jail. My mother remarried, and she maintained married until she passed away. So she stayed married for 25 years. But, Ernest, for me, it was very difficult navigating the journey because I had a father who I knew, and he was barely ever around. When he was around, he would say, "I love you," but he was never around. And then my stepfather, who was always around, I could never get him say, "I love you," no matter how many times I would say, "I love you." And of course, all of this came back as just a tsunami of emotions when I was holding my first daughter. We were living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we were on the 8th floor of the building. And I remember in the middle of the night, the daughter, she started crying, and she was 2 years old when I held her at that time. And as I was holding her in the middle of the night, she's 2 years old, I'm looking out the window of the middle of the night, and it's pitch black. So all I see is my reflection. And it just hit me at that moment, all of the emotions of why my father wasn't there, why my stepfather didn't show that love, and all of these emotions that I had, without realizing it, suppressed, just came back. And so my work of trying to build a legacy is one of the very foundations of my life. Build a legacy, have impact, have community, and be able to ensure that when I'm gone, my daughters can say, that guy, that was a real guy.
Right, right. Okay, all right, man. You said a mouthful. You said a mouthful. But let me go back. Let me start
Yeah.
from the beginning. First of all, so you said you got three daughters. So
Yes.
what are your daughters' names and what are their ages again?
Yeah, so our oldest daughter is Raziel. She's 10 years old. Our second daughter is Anna Isabella. She's 8. And then our youngest daughter, who's 4 years old, is Amelia.
All right, all right. So
Mhm.
you being a three-time girl dad, I
Yeah.
know that it means a little. It has to mean three times as much, right? To the average girl dad, like myself, which who only have one.
Mhm.
So, in your own words, tell me what does it mean for you to be a girl dad?
It's certainly very important to me because I understand of the importance of raising, and you spoke about this in your book, right, when you talk about those core values that we need to install in our children, and it's in our daughters specifically. It's so important for me to be able to ensure that I'm raising myself to a high standard so that I can raise my daughters to be the best women, best ambassadors, best people they could be. And so to me, it's an amazing feeling to know that I get to be able to put a seed in them that will last beyond my existence on this earth.
Yeah, yeah. And is I kind of go back to what you were saying, even giving your story,
Hmm.
about seeing that reflection and then really just saying, seeing yourself with your own child, and then again reflecting back on the two men, the two
Hmm.
fathers, should I say,
Hmm.
that played a role in your life. And I always give a shout out to the stepfathers because I'm a stepfather myself,
Hmm.
right? So my daughter, who just turned 21 recently,
Oh, nice.
is my only biological child, but I
Hmm.
have four stepsons,
Hmm.
and so I know um, what that's like to for someone to step in, and take on that
Hmm.
role, and being in your life to be that father figure that you need, even though we're not perfect, and so like in your case, like I said, you had that your stepfather who you never could get to say I love you. And
Hmm.
it's kind of opposite with me, right? So I have four stepsons, and I would say it, you know what I mean? They didn't
Yeah.
say it too often. Every now and then, like on my birthday or something, they'll say it,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
now with all of them being young adults, my daughter, the youngest of the five kids that I have, my daughter, like I said, she's turned 21, so all the rest of the boys are older than her. But I would say my one son that gave me the most trouble growing up, right, is the one that says I love you the most now as a young man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
And so
so that's
because of, because of that experience, I try to be consistently loving and nurturing to my daughters. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not stern when I need to be, because, of course,
Mhm.
you know, I believe that iron sharpens iron and one person helps another. So my job is not just to nurture, but also to uplift and to be able to, bring that balance together with my wife. Certainly, while my stepfather was not the type of person to say I love you, the reality is that the work ethic that I have is in large part because of him. This was a man
Mhm.
that would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to bed by, midnight if necessary, and he was working construction, mechanic, heavy labor duty work. So certainly he was rough around the edges, but again, that work ethic is something that is instilled to me to this day. I don't have a trouble breaking nights if we have to be productive.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so, but it did create in me this necessity of not only saying I love you to my daughters, but beyond that, being able to say you are strong, you're intelligent, you're wise, you're courageous, being able to say more than you're beautiful and your daddy's little princess. Beyond that, being able to highlight their character has been important for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great, great, great.
Mhm.
I love it. So let's go back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so um you have three daughters, so you could either even give the example of one or all three, because we're here
Mhm.
for it, right? So how did you find out that you were going to be a father? Was it a surprise, or were you guys actively um planning, on trying to have a daughter or have a
Yeah.
child, period?
Yeah. So certainly we were planning on having children. That was part of our desire. Our first daughter was born 2 years into our marriage. And some of that was medical complications, to be honest. But, we held tight to the faith, and we, had a community of people that prayed with us and believed with us. And so thank God we were able to have our daughter. And so Raziel is actually a Hebrew name that means God is my secret, and it's because of that, because of those difficulties. Excuse me. And so it's very important to be able to plan these things as much as possible.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
for us, we tried to plan all of this when our oldest daughter was a little older, probably around 3 years old to 3 years old. That's when we had already gotten ready, or were in the process of for the arrival for Anna. And once we purchased a home, so we moved from our 2 bedroom apartment to a 3 bedroom apartment. Anna arrived. And then after that, we said, okay, we got to get out of this apartment. We got to get into a place where they have more space. I mean, the three
right,
bedroom apartment got real small real quick.
right, right,
So we moved from there and we're able to purchase a home. And after we purchased a home, about a year into being homeowners, that's then when Amelia arrived. And so, yeah, all of these were planned. I would say maybe the one that maybe caught us a little bit off guard was Anna, because even though we knew, we were like, okay, maybe we want to start now if we want to have another one. Just the arrival was like, oh, I guess here it is.
right.
but but certainly our heart was to have more than one child.
All right, all right.
Mhm.
Definitely, okay, more than one child. And then just by being all girls, do you have any plans on trying to go for the boy, or you just be like, you know what, I'm sticking out with these girls. It's already four against one. I don't want to
Yeah.
be five against one.
Ernest, one of the I was there, I was privileged enough, again, just kind of going back to not having my father there as much. I've tried to be present for everything, and I was there for all of the births of my daughters. For the first one where it was a natural birth, and the last two where it was a C-section. And birth and labor is a beautiful, disgusting thing, and I was there for all of that. And to be honest, during each pregnancy, it was very challenging for my wife. She had morning sickness very bad. And so on the first pregnancy, she had morning sickness for about 6 to 7 months. On the second pregnancy, they figured out 3 months into it what medicine worked. And so the last several months there of the pregnancy went fairly well. On the third pregnancy, the medicine that had worked in the second no longer functioned. So she had morning sickness for 9 months straight. Ernest, it was so bad that they had to have a nurse come home every day to give her IV because she wasn't keeping any food down. And so, even though in my heart and in my wife's heart as well, there was a desire to have a boy, especially when we found out, okay, we're going to have Amelia. When we found that out, it was like, okay, are we going to try after this? Like, we immediately had that question of, are we going to try for the boy? And while our heart was set on that, because of that level of
Mhm.
sickness and trial, even I was like, listen, we're gonna have to just let it go,
Right.
because there was just no way that her
Yeah.
body was going to be able to go through that. So, once they went in and the baby came out, they went in and snip snap and cut it a wrap. So it's all done. The
Right, right.
3 is all that's coming out. So
Cool, cool. So speaking of which, you talked about being up for your daughters. Did you guys find out the sex of the children beforehand, or did you guys like do the whole gender reveal and all of that?
No, we found out beforehand, so we had that conversation on what it would be, and we were able to celebrate the entire process, which was, at least for us, it was really good because we got into that process of, okay, let's have the conversation amongst ourselves, and so we found out, okay, we're pregnant, and then let's just kind of wait a couple months before we tell everybody and bring
Mhm.
everybody into this. Once about the third month into it, once you're past the first trimester, it's a little safer zone there, and
Right.
that's when we involved everybody in saying, hey, here's what we're expecting.
Okay, cool,
Hmm.
cool. So let's talk a little bit about your experience as a brand new father,
Hmm.
right? So bringing your first daughter home, brand new dad, first time, and I know you mentioned about the experience of actually seeing your reflection and taking that experience in of reflecting on your upbringing as a father, but
Hmm.
now you're actually here with your daughter. So
Hmm.
how was that? With your first daughter as being a brand new father, then just a little bit about, like, I'm sure each one of them was a little bit different,
Hmm.
experience. So tell us a little bit about your experiences that you had of being a new father with a baby girl.
Hmm. Yeah. So my first daughter, Raziel, she was born when I was 25 years old. And, at 25 years old, I certainly wanted to be a father. Again, my wife and I had been married at that point for 2 years. So we wanted to have children. I don't know if I was necessarily mentally and emotionally ready,
Mhm.
but when Amelia was born, I was already 31, 33 years old. So, and I don't know if I was necessarily ready then either. So, I think for me, when I reflect on the father and the version of me that they're getting, each of them have gotten a different version of me because the circumstances have been differently. When Raziel was born, I was an assistant store manager at a a retail store, and so that lifestyle in retail store, you're working different hours. Not only that, but I was working in a nonprofit organization as well. And I was returning back to college. And so there's a lot of moving pieces when she's born, and we're living in an apartment. When Anna comes around, I'm focusing more on nonprofit organization, and I'm working more in the community, still working at that point out as a manager now. So I'm moving up, but just a different part of life. When Amelia comes around, we're homeowners. I'm launching a business. I got a podcast. We're really focusing on community. So this is just different versions of me, and I love the version that I am now because I'm able to look back and kind of pick up on the mistakes or errors or things I could have done better. I think that one of the things that really made it exciting, cool about being a father for the first time was that in the same building complex that I lived in, my brother lived as well. And my brother, he got married probably about a year or two after I did. But they were quicker than we waited 2 years. When once they got married, it was like, we having kids. They started reproducing, so our children are similar age. So even though Anna had not come around until about a 2 year or so afterwards, Raziel was building this relationship with her cousin, and so they are inseparable. Like, they love each other to the max, and so that, just being able to be around that, made it slightly easier once Anna came around, because we were already, babysitting and already doing all these things. So certainly my personal growth has helped in this relationship. I was actually having a conversation with Raziel a couple of days ago where I was saying to her, I don't know why. I said to her, I don't know why God entrusted you to be the oldest, but he entrusted you to be the oldest, and he entrusted me to be your father. And none of us received instructions on how to do these jobs.
Right.
So let's work together to do these jobs. And so I think it's always trying to create that communication and that relationship and that synergistic process of let's work together to continuously work in this relationship?
Yeah, yeah, I remember. So I am the oldest boy in
Hmm.
of my family. It's nine of us all
Oh,
together. So
wow.
I have three brothers. I have five sisters.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm the oldest boy. But
Mhm.
one of the things that my mom did, I'm the oldest boy, but I'm the fourth child.
Mhm.
Right. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that my mom always did, when she had the next child, after each one of us was born, she would bring the baby to the old. So my brother that's after me, he's literally 1 year and a day after me. Right. So actually at the time of us recording this is the day before my birthday. So tomorrow is my
Hey,
birthday.
happy
My
birthday, man.
brother, thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you. So my brother is one year and 11 days. So my birthday is
Mhm.
May 1st, his birthday is May 11th. So what my mom would do, and she did this for all of us, is so when my brother was born, and she came home from the hospital, she brought him to me,
Mhm.
right? And she gave him to me and held and said, "This is your brother. This is your responsibility. So
Oh,
you have to
wow.
look after him." And
Uh,
so she did the same thing, when I was a baby,
yeah.
with my sisters, and each one after us. That's
Mhm.
kind of what she was her thing of starting to build that trust right away and that responsibility. Like this is your baby
Yeah.
just as much as it's mine. You know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
you have to look after him. You have to
Yep.
make sure he's good.
Yeah.
And so that began to build that bond with each of us, each
Mhm.
each child, and it just
Yeah.
kind of built, as we went along. So yeah, I understand, being that dad and saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
let's work together. Let's do this thing right." Because there definitely is no
No.
no instructions. We
No.
try to learn as we go and learn by the examples that we had of what to do or even what not to do in some cases. And so there's definitely a learning curve, right?
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I don't wanna do is I don't want to act as though I have it figured out. I
Mhm.
feel like, when I was a kid, that's the way I viewed adults, as though adults have it figured out. And I have no shame whatsoever to be able to tell my daughters, I don't know the answer. Like, let's both go to Google. Let's both do a
Right.
search, you know, or really if I'm figuring it out, like, hey, I'm working this out. And I think that, at least in my mind, my intention behind that is I don't want to be in such a pedestal that it's like this guy can do no wrong. This guy is Superman. It's like, no, I'm not Superman. I just dedicate myself, work hard, and put in the same amount of effort that you could put in and anybody could put in. And so I try to keep it that. My intention, at least, is to keep it at that. But the reality is that, you know, boys will look at their fathers as someone to model, and girls will look at their dad either as someone they want to eventually date or not. And
Mhm.
so I keep that in mind, and I try to be as present as possible, and I try to model what love looks like with my wife, their mother, in front of them. So, in front of them, I'll hug my wife, kiss my wife, I'll, tell her good things, and buy her flowers. And of course, having all girls, they all want flowers
Right.
when mom gets flowers. But I try to do those things and make sure that they see it, so that there is an actual model and template that hopefully years down the line they can look back at.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that too, because that was something that I was very adamant about. Because my daughter, I've been married twice, so
Hmm.
my daughter is from my first marriage, my
Hmm.
previous marriage, and then after I remarried, I was very intentional about how not only how I treated her mom, even though she was really young when me and her mom was still together,
Hmm.
but even after the divorce and even after I remarried, I was very intentional about how I treated her mom
Hmm.
and her stepmom, how I talked to them, how I spoke to them, the way I reacted, to
Yeah.
them, so that she would always have that example, of what this is supposed to look like.
Hmm.
Whether it's your first marriage, second marriage, whether you're a stepmother or not,
Yeah.
stepfather or not, this is what this is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And I was very adamant about that, because even like with me and her mom after we divorced, it's like, okay, we're divorced, but I still have to be the example, because God forbid one day she get divorced. She
Hmm.
needs to know what this should look like.
Yeah.
You don't have to argue, you don't have to fight, you don't have to be all
Mhm.
of that. And then when you remarry, if that's the case, this is still, you still should be treated the same way. You still should be
Yeah.
treated with the same level of respect and everything. And so I was very adamant about those same principles, with
Yeah.
my daughter when she was younger. But so as I know, as we've been talking about it, we are definitely evolving and teaching our daughters, you know, different things and make sure that we are inputting into them. But I also know that just as much as we are teaching them, they are teaching us,
Yeah.
right? So what is something that you learned from your daughters, either one of them or just all of them?
Wow. The biggest lesson that I have learned from my daughters is the ability that a child has to just express their feelings. And my wife and I have really tried to foster an environment where they could talk. And of course, I tell my daughters there's a difference between talking to me and talking back to me.
Right,
And the difference is that tone. You will watch that tone.
right,
And so we try to build that space where, yeah, tell me how you feel. I want you to process how you feel, because I don't know how you feel. I can't guess how you feel. And so I try to give them the space to say how you feel with a proper respect and tone, of course.
mhm,
And 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 yet, one of the most impressive things to me has been that even when they're mad, they're quick to just turn around and be like, yeah, I still love you. They're quick to try to get a hug or cuddle. And I think, at least for me, I think that's a big lesson that I've taken, that ability to say, okay, you know what, I'm not happy with you, but I still love you. I'm not happy with this
yeah,
situation. I really wanted this, but I still love you. And their ability to do that has been so eye-opening for me, because when I came to the realization of all these feelings that I had towards my father and towards our relationship, I really, to be honest, lived in a bitterness for quite some time. And seeing my daughters, how they would be bothered, storm off, stomp their feet as kids do, and yet still turn around 2 seconds later. I mean, even my daughter Amelia sometimes will do this thing with, like, I'm mad at you. And I'm like, you're mad at me? She was like, yeah, because I love you and I want candy and I love you and I want toys. And it's like, okay, it's like you complimented me and insulted me at the same time. So their ability to do that really is an eye-opening thing.
all right, all right. So last two questions before we,
Mhm.
we get into the second part of the show. um there are some things that I'll give you my story, right? So when my daughter was about maybe 7 or 8, around that time, maybe 10, something like that, they had their first daddy daughter dance, right, at her school, and I
Mhm.
had to work. And I said, well, I'll miss this one and I'll catch the next one.
Mhm.
And as I said before, my daughter just made 21. There never was a next one,
Mhm.
And so definitely over the years, we've done some other stuff together
Mhm.
and dinners and things like that. But my regret is missing that first daddy daughter dance, because
Mhm.
that was the first opportunity. And it was something that I wanted to do, with her. I just didn't take that time when it was presented. And
Mhm.
so reflecting back now, that is one of the things that, for lack of a better term, one of the things I regret, as being a father. And you are now, your oldest daughter is in around 10, now you have other daughters. So what is something that, even in your journey so far, that, even if regret is maybe a strong word, but
Mhm.
not necessarily regret, but something that you look back and say, you know what, I probably could have done that a little differently. And if I had the chance to do it over, maybe I would change that up a little bit.
The big thing that I've tried to address consistently is the way I tackle conversations. And so,
Mhm.
to me, when I was a kid, speaking of which, your birthday is May 1st, my birthday is May 2nd. So,
Well, happy birthday to you too.
so yeah, you know, when I was a kid, you, there was not a lot of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
When you did something wrong, the way I knew about it was because I was going to get it upside the head.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a grandma who she would sometimes be like, hey, go outside and give me a little switch real quick. And like,
Right, right.
you need
Oh
this for
yeah.
grandma. She's like, don't worry about it. And if she couldn't find the switch, there was always a replacement for the switch. So
Right.
that was when I was growing up. And there wasn't really this conversation of this is what you did wrong, this is what I expected you to do, this is why it was wrong. It was, move because I told you to move. It wasn't here's why I need you to move, or I can't explain it to you now, but just move and I'll explain it later. Those conversations weren't there. And early on, it was trying to figure that out, trying to figure out. And so, not necessarily regret, but more of, man, I just wish I had those tools really early on. It took me the process of self discovery. It took me the process of identifying my core values. It took me the process of really saying, man, I got to elevate me. I got to really get clear on my vision, my desired future state, who I want to be, what I want to be. And when I began to have those conversations with myself and with my wife, that then allowed me the tools to be able to have those type of conversations with my daughters. And so, not necessarily a regret, more of I just wish I would have had those tools
Yeah.
earlier. But I'm so happy that I have those tools and that I'm able to implement them. And you know, that's one of the biggest things that I really have noticed within myself and within the relationship that I have with my daughters.
All right, all right. So on the flip side of that, right?
Mhm,
So we talk about something that you probably would change, but
mhm.
now on the flip side of that, as a father, what has been one of your biggest accomplishments that you feel?
So for each one is slightly different.
Mhm.
Raziel is very creative and she loves reading and she loves exploring and finding information. One of the cool things that we've been able to do is that she knows I have a podcast, and her intrigue was such that she was like, I think I'd like to do one. And being able to actually help her start her own podcast, that was really cool. And now it's just a thing of saying, hey, one episode isn't enough. You got one after the other
Mhm.
after the other.
Right.
But to just be able to say, okay, we have 5 6 episodes that she's been able to do, and to see her light up when that happens, and that's really a good thing. That's an awesome thing. For Anna struggled in trying to kind of find her placing with reference to making friends and what she wanted to do. We did this thing where she went to multiple sports. It was a summer thing where every week they would change the sport and she was allowed to explore, whether it be basketball, golf, lacrosse, a bunch of different sports. And it seemed like none of them fit. And finally we just decided, there's a karate place nearby. Let's just see if that fits. And initially she was not wanting it, and then we were like, yeah, but it looks like there's something here for you, let's do it. And today, she's a blue belt and she's so excited to be able to climb the ranks. So to be able to see that, it's an exciting thing. Of course, every time she climbs ranks and obtains a new belt, we have this thing where she and I will go out and celebrate. So, you spoke about those daddy daughter moments. I try to create those moments with my daughter. So it's like, okay, you just climbed the rank. Let's you and me go out for ice cream. Let's go out for cookies or whatever that looks like. And then when Amelia is 4 years old, but just getting to know her character, getting to just be in kid zone and kid mode with her, to me, that's just an amazing accomplishment. Because again, it goes back to just not having the tools early on, maybe
Mhm.
doing it, but just not doing it to the best of my ability and really understanding what it means to be present. Now having a clear understanding of that, I'm able to just, either lay down with her or get in the mud or whatever that kind of looks like. So different for each child is a little different, but certainly sense of accomplishment.
All right, all right. Love it, love it. So we're going to jump into our last segment of the podcast. It's called the Getting to the Core segment.
Mhm.
So to my listeners, to get into the core segment, we talk about the ebook that I wrote called The Four Core, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father. It is an ebook. You can get your copy at ebooksbyejames.com. The links is in the descriptions below. So make sure that you guys go there to get your copy of the core four, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father. So I sent you a copy, right, and allow you to read over it. And so just for my listeners, the core four values that I believe that are very important, and this is not an exhaustive end all list, right? This is the core. This is at the very beginning, and at the least, these values is where you should start as a father, right? And so the four core are guidance, affirmation, love and affection, and protection. And so Miguel, in your own mind, and definitely knowing that all four are important. If there was one of the four that you had to lean on the most to say, okay, if nothing else, I'm going to instill this in my daughters, which one would that be?
Affirmation. Affirmation. I want to be, even to this day, my mom's voice rings true in my ear with the many lessons, sayings, quotes that she would consistently say when I was a kid. And I want to be that voice of reason that they hear in their mind, not only when they're on the edge of maybe making a mistake, but even when they're feeling down. And so I try to consistently say, you are smart, you're intelligent, you're wise, you're creative, you're strong, you can do anything you want to do, you can be anything you want to be. And I begin to go through a list, like you can be the president, you can be this, you can be that. And oftentimes, and they're very young, but I'll ask them the question, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they'll answer, well, I want to be. And I said, no, it's a different question of what do you want to be and what do you want to do? Because who do you want to be is a thing of character. What do you want to do is a thing of work. And so what do you want to do? Because the person you should want to be, and I begin to go off through those character lists. So I think for me, affirmation is like top of the list, and it kind of just stems off from there.
All right, all right. So the ebook is called The Core Four, which is the core four values. So if there could be a fifth value that you could add, what would that fifth value be?
I think that fifth value would be modeling. I want to be able to model for my daughter what it looks like to be someone who's committed. Model what it looks like to be someone of faith, someone of courage, someone of valor. I want to model that. Of course, my wife is there, and they're going to resonate with her. That's mom. She's a woman, etc. But one of the things I've done, like whenever we're doing house chores, there was this one moment where I was cleaning the bathroom and I'm scrubbing it down, Ernest. I'm in there. I'm all the way in there. And my daughters are passing by in the hallway, and I was like, hey, stop there, stop there, stop there. And they're like, what is it? And I'm like, get your sister quick. And so Raziel went and got her sister, like, what's going on? What's the emergency? I'm like, no. You see me on my knees wiping down this bathroom, getting deep into it. And they're like, yeah, get you a man that do this. Because if your man don't know how to scrub a toilet, daddy. So modeling to me is so important.
Yeah, love it. So Miguel, I want to say thank you again, man, for being on, for coming on, for sharing your story and your expertise as being a 3-time girl dad. Definitely appreciate you being on. I want you to have the last word, right? And I want you to leave a word for my other girl dad fathers, or even maybe for our daughters, right? Because I always want this podcast to be entertaining, yes, but more so informative, right? Because the whole reason why I started the podcast was to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter, right? And so me being a girl dad who was very active in my daughter's life, I combat both of those just in my very existence. And I know that there's more fathers like me, right? There's other girl dads there's very active in the lives of their daughters. And so that's why I started this podcast. So I would like you to leave a word for our other fathers that's listening, or maybe even the daughters. Definitely leave us with your social media handles and things like that, where we can find you, and anything else that you would like to share. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Make sure you guys are following us on all of our websites. Our main website, or should I say my main website, is the dealhealfulfill.org website. Again, because I am Earnest James, and my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. And so that is the main website where you can find more about me as a speaker, as a workshop presenter, as a podcaster with the other podcasts that I have going on at the dealhealfulfill.org. You can find me more about myself there. Also, make sure you guys are checking out our Deal to Heal tees, right? Our inspirational t-shirt line. That's deal, the number 2, healtees.com, deal to healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Make sure you guys go there and check out our inspirational t-shirts, as well as our podcast merch. We have t-shirts for each of our podcasts that we have with our podcast logos on it. So definitely you can find those there. And last but not least, we talked about the core 4, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father, which is an ebook that I wrote. You can find that ebook at ebooksbyejames.com. That's ebooksbyejames.com, as well as some other ebooks that I have there, including an ebook called Mails to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook. There's an ebook called Forgiving Me, the 4 Steps to Self-Forgiveness, that is also there. So you guys just go there. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com to check out the other ebooks that's available. Make sure also that you guys check out our text line by subscribing by texting the word subscribe to our text line. That's 866-326-0730 to receive text messages about new episodes, book releases, event information, and all of that good stuff. Again, that's our join our text line at 866-326-0730. All right. One of the other things that I'm very happy to be a part of is an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every quarter of the year, talking about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, what it means to forgive, how to forgive yourself, how do you forgive others, how do you forgive the world. So we have a whole conversation about forgiveness. It's free, it's virtual, so you can take it on your phone, you can take it on your laptop, but you got to go to forgivenessmission.com in order to register, or just go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop, sponsored by forgivenessmission.com, in order to sign up for that free virtual workshop. So we have it. By the time you're listening to this, either one just ended or there's one coming up. So make sure, again, you go to Eventbrite, look up Forgiveness Workshop, or just go to forgivenessmission.com in order to take part of that free virtual workshop. Last but not least, I told you guys that I would tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast. So you can win $100 from the podcast by joining our super subscriber contest, which means first you must subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and then to our podcast on Spotify. Then text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. It's an ongoing contest and it's random, which means once you're in, you can always win. You don't ever have to re-up again, but you can have a chance to win $100 by entering our super subscriber contest. That being said, Mr. Miguel, I thank you again for being on. Thank you for sharing your story. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you again for allowing me to be on your podcast. And for those individuals who have been connected, I want to encourage you to seek personal growth. The reality is that there are 10 life domains. And as you raise yourself, you're better equipped to raise your children. And this is something that I believe wholeheartedly. And I've seen it in my own life. And I know exactly what it is to feel stuck, to feel like you are powerless, to feel like there's nothing you can do, that it doesn't matter how many prayers you do, or even if you eat your vitamins, it feels like you're in quicksand. And I know what that feeling is. I hate that feeling. I want to eradicate that feeling, which is why, as a personal growth strategist, I help those who feel stuck become unstuck and accomplish their goals. The ways that I do this is, as a personal growth strategist, I work one-on-one with individuals. I also offer a free podcast, which you can listen to, Strategy Rewind. And of course, if you just go to strategyrewind.com, there you can subscribe, get access not only to the podcast, but you'll also get access to articles, webinars, community, and coaching. All of this by heading over to strategyrewind.com. You can subscribe for free and instantly gain access.
All right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where our mission is to amplify the voices of girl dads and their daughters to the world. And so until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. Also, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else, that the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on the air. Until next time, be blessed.
Hey, it's Alex
and Bella
from Let's Not Sugarcoat It, a podcast where each week we bring you real, raw, and unfiltered conversations.
Our guests share their life's journeys in entrepreneurship, relationship, parenthood, and much, much more
in an authentic and raw way where no one sugarcoats life's messes and successes.
Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of your favorite podcast apps, and tune in every Wednesday for new episodes.